Mr. Brendel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzman?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelnit?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson? Chairman Pearsall?
Yes. Like someone to make a motion for the approval of the minutes of April the 28th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 28th meeting.
I'll second that.
Mr. Brendel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzman?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelnit?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson? Chairman Pearsall?
Yes. We have no correspondence this month. We have resolution 2016-10 under old business. Like someone to make a motion on that.
Make a motion that we accept resolution 2016-10. It's a dash 11, right? Dash 11.
Yes, it is.
I'll second that.
Mr. Brendel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Abstain.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzman?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelnit?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson? Yep. Thank you. Chairman Pearsall?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Tonight, our new business is 2016-03, 810 Highway 71 LLC, Lot 69, Lot 19, coming before the board looking for an outdoor patio. I'd like to welcome the applicants tonight, wish you well in your presentation. Anyone that's going to be speaking on behalf of the application tonight will be sworn in together, along with our engineer. So if you come forward now.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Robert Cosgrove with the firm of Durkin & Durkin, attorney for the applicant, 810 Highway 71 LLC, which will, with your permission, refer to as the Spring Lake Tap House. We will have 4 witnesses this evening, 2 experts and 2 proprietors, Mr. Durkin and Mr. Sullivan. We have Mr. Carpenter, who will be an engineer and planner, and Mr. Weiss, an architect.
Gentlemen, if you just state your name and address so I can get them on the record.
Cornelius Durkin, 42 Bowers Road, Caldwell, New Jersey.
John Sullivan, 19 Tuttle Avenue, Spring Lake, New Jersey.
Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Rice, Mr. Blasco, if everybody would raise their right hand, please, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in today's proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
You all set?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then proceed.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin, before we get into the testimony of the experts in the application, I wanted you to provide the board with a little background of what you've done with the establishment so far and what you are trying to accomplish with this application.
Okay, about 2 years ago, my partner John Sullivan and I, we purchased what was then known as the Porch Restaurant. December of 2014, I believe it was. We closed the place for 6 months, had extensive renovations, and reopened it as the Spring Lake Tap House. It's been well received by the community. Most customers are like what we've done to it. The one negative we do get is no outside dining. We have customers who say every other town area has outside dining. Why don't you guys have it? You have space for it. So this time of year, we thought we'd take a chance, before your board and seek permission to permit outside dining at our facility. We generally cater to a very nice crowd. We're not trying to, be a younger bar, but we cater to all ages. And I think we've done a pretty good job.
Are you intending to increase the occupancy at all?
No.
And could you explain to the board a little bit about what you intend occupancy-wise with regard to the outdoor
Well,
dining?
what would occur naturally is people would want to sit outside and not sit inside. So inside would decrease and outside would increase, not an increase.
Okay. And I know we're going to get into a little bit more with the plan out, but can you tell the board a little bit about how you intend to, if the use is granted, to make it aesthetically pleasing and beneficial to the community?
Well, a picture tells us how the storage. Chris Rice has a picture of the rendering of the proposed outside dining. Obviously, we limited the dining, not loud music or anything like that outside dining with umbrella tables. We don't believe we are going to affect any of the residents since the golf course is across the street and the businesses basically are left and right. And it would just be the whole area up front. If you look at our property, right now, it's more or less an eyesore. We want to clean that all up and make it very attractive to the community.
And is it your intent to have entertainment of any kind outdoors?
No.
And when would you, what hours would you anticipate?
Well, for lunch and for dinner, we would not see anybody past, say, 9 o'clock at night. Dinner, after dinner, place shuts down.
I have no further questions. Ms. Williams?
Any board members have a question for Mr. Durkin?
Yeah. I'd like to, how many seats are in the restaurant now? Like, how many people can you seat in the RTE?
Our planner will address that.
Okay.
I don't know the exact number.
I don't have a question.
Yeah. You mentioned that you needed to, that the front was an eyesore. What is exactly there right now? That's-
Overgrown bushes, there's still a rock garden.
You have a rock garden with the most beautiful Japanese maple tree there too, don't you? Is that what you consider an eyesore?
No, absolutely not. I don't consider that an eyesore. But if you look at, generally speaking, the whole area, it's just, we've done a lot of renovations to the facility. The one area we did not renovate was the front area. Just,
That stayed the same.
it pretty much stayed the same, yes.
And you said you would not be increasing patrons by having outside dining. I mean, you're still gonna have the same amount of seats inside, plus what you're gonna get on the outside.
Well, we're not seeking additional occupancy. We believe that there's less people will eat inside will migrate outside.
But that's just your theory. I mean, if it's full, the people are eating outside, they don't want to wait, they're gonna be inside, which is gonna be more seats and more people, correct?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, and our planner will address this. What he means is that the legal occupancy, we're not permitted, we're not seeking an increase. Based on
So
what
you're increasing the amount of seats that you have outside without deducting any from the inside.
yes, yeah, there will be more seats.
Let me answer your question this way. During the summer months, we get asked constantly, oh, you guys are getting really busy, the summer months are here. And what realistically what happens, with all the outside restaurants that open, many of our customers go there and don't go to us. So we're not as busy as, say, we are in September, October, November.
But you're talking to Parker House and those places that are only a seasonal restaurant anyway.
No,
I mean, the Spring Lake Manor doesn't have outside seating.
I think they do, but I don't think they're not really a restaurant, they're more of a catering facility, I would think.
Yeah.
I have a question. I drove up Mercer Avenue on my way here tonight, and I couldn't help but notice the whole street is just lined with cars. And I'm just wondering, have you ever received, complaints about parking or parking issues? I also noticed that you don't have, you're not informed as far as how many parking spaces you already have. So So there's potential for even more people.
From time to time, we get, that it's busy, there's no parking on the street, but no one feels complaining.
You never see any complaints
I don't
from the
know.
neighborhood people about parking and you don't intend to have any kind of music out there?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And you don't intend to see people after 9 o'clock at night?
No. Also, in the summer months, we find that our parking is less because more people take Uber and vans and other modes of transportation, bicycles, walk, than in the winter, colder months. So many times we have park over, it's empty, if you walk inside and we're busy, people come on other modes of transportation.
Ray, did you have a question?
Yeah, according to this plan that we have, you have a seating capacity out there of 64 people. Conservatively speaking, that could, to me, it could mean 32 more vehicles parked somewhere, and your parking lot is not big enough to accommodate 32 more. They're parking on the street now. And I don't see, the wall is 3 foot high, so people could presumably park and then jump the wall and be on the patio, and one of their buddies goes in and gets the drinks. So they're not violating your capacity.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow your question.
Just as a clarification.
Where are you going to park 32 more cars if you don't park them on the street in front of people's houses and such? It's already, from what I understand, it's already a problem on some occasions for your parking. And now you're going to increase the parking by, conservatively speaking, 32 more vehicles. I happen to have the misfortune of living down the street at the end of Sussex Avenue with Mike Jordan's, the Champagne, the Dewdrop Inn, and Tom Riley is there. And at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, you have people urinating in their yard, throwing beer bottles, and screaming and hollering, waking the kids, making the dogs bark, and if you said anything to them, they want to fight with you. It's a bad situation, and it seems to me it's only going to increase that possibility.
Just a point of clarification before Mr. Durkin answers. We're not seeking to have the outside be a bar area. It's for outdoor dining only, and then it's not going to go to 3 in the morning. It's just during regular dining hours is what the application is. And as far as the parking, our planner will get into that a little bit more, but they're not seeking to pack the place, and it's a situation where if there's no parking, people aren't going to go there. If you're going by vehicle and you can't park, you're probably going to go in somewhere else.
And Mr. Guerrero, like I was explaining, particularly the summer months, which is probably when most people would use the outside dining, most people come either by bike, Uber these days, taxi cabs, golf carts. Summer months, our parking is not as intense as it is in the winter months. And that's when this dining would be utilized in its highest use.
Would you consider this month as a summer month now that it's like this Memorial Day?
With today's weather, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, well, right now, as of 6 o'clock tonight, every parking space in your lot was taken, and there was a row of cars on both sides of 6th Avenue parked. Every space on 6th Avenue was taken past, not 6th Avenue, Mercer, past 6th Avenue, and there were cars there too. And I had a feeling that some of those people were inside your establishment. Now, you have, I asked before about the numbers, and I didn't realize it was right here on the plan, but you have 82 restaurant seats and 37 bar seats. That comes out to 119, and you want to add 64, is it, outdoor seats? So that's a 50% increase of the seating, but yet you have 22 parking spaces, and you propose to have 22 parking spaces. So there's no, that just doesn't line up in the parking situation. In fact, your new requirements would be 58, and you plan on continuing to have 22. So those people that you said are going to drive by when they see that the parking lot is full, yeah, they're going to drive by. They're going to drive by and they're going to park on the street next to on Mercer Avenue, or who knows where, maybe 2 blocks away.
with the expansion of the outdoor area, don't you have to get more handicap parking?
Mr. Weiss, we're going to have our planner address. Mr. Durkin's testimony was limited to what the intent is, but in terms of the legalities, our experts will be prepared to answer those questions.
When you say for summer months, outdoor for nice months, what's your intended season for this
Well,
space?
I guess the season would be more or less, the climate might dictate that. It's a nice September evening, maybe we'll open it up. Even if it's cold, we wouldn't be
So
open.
you're looking for a blanket year-round, but you'll decide when it will be open?
Well, if the board were inclined to ask for restrictions in terms of season, I think we're open to
Absolutely.
whatever comments the board may have, including the number of outdoor seats.
Right now, I'm not really sure how the whole smoking thing lines up. But do you have an outside smoking area at your place? Or?
Basically at the front door. They walk outside and there's an ashtray up there, right up, facing Mercer.
So what would stop people from then taking over this space as their smoking
It
area?
wouldn't be permitted.
And what would dictate that?
We would enforce it.
Similar to how the inside is enforced. Will there be an access to the outdoor dining area as proposed from the outside, or would you have to go inside?
Inside to have.
But there's also an access to the outside of this space.
Yeah, for emergency purposes, yes.
Approximately how many feet away from the front door would be your new building area?
From the front door.
Yeah, it's around the corner, sort of.
If you want to defer to you.
Yeah, I would ask the planner. I can't give that.
All right, so the planner, maybe.
Yeah, we intended to bring, I just wanted to give the board a flavor for what they were intending to do, and then we can get into the specifics with the experts.
I have a question for you. You've owned property, well, let's say between 2 and 3 years, pretty much. And so was it during that time frame that you got the idea of maybe outdoor seating, not prior to, buying the property?
No, during, in the last couple of years, particularly in the summer months when we get asked by our patrons, be ready to get outside time.
Do you also own or are part owner of St. Stephen's Green?
Yes.
Have you ever thought about doing the same thing there?
We did a number of years ago, about 8 years ago. And it came before the board, and there were some issues that was raised by the board, and we since deferred that option of putting outside dining. We're still looking potentially to reconfigure the whole property there to find an area where we can do that, but we have the same circumstance there as we do here.
Do you feel at this point that of the 2 properties, this one would be the most suitable for what you're thinking?
Yes, because of where it's located. There's no residence right in front there. It's a golf course across the street. There's zero chance that you could be bothering any neighbor there.
When you purchased the tap house, I guess you purchased it with, many nonconformities and so forth, like the freezers, they, I guess, encroach upon the, pretty close to the property line. Now, at that time, when you were doing all your renovations, did you ever think about trying to, rectify some of those nonconformities?
Quite frankly, at the end of our renovations, it probably would have been better and cheaper for us to start from scratch. Every time we fix something, we found 10 more things wrong. We're looking, constantly fixing the place up.
And, there is an office building directly across from you guys.
Yes.
Sometimes when I go by and it's night, I see a lot of cars in there.
Yes.
Do some of your patrons use that as
Yes.
parking?
Yes.
Now, do you have some kind of an arrangement with the owners of that building? or-
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
They were permitted to park there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
What are your normal business hours? What time is the inside close?
Close?
Yeah, what time
Right
is it
now
close?
it's closed. We have 2 o'clock, but mostly, starts closing around 1 o'clock.
Do you expect to, like, stop seating at 7 o'clock or 7:30, or what's your?
Well, we
have a
thought
plan?
8 o'clock would be a good time to cut it off.
So you had a
Yeah, stop.
9:30?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Anyone else? We're ready to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to stand up.
Mr.
You pick me up on the mic.
We'll see.
Mr. Carpenter, I know you've appeared before our board on a number of occasions, but maybe we have some new board members. Would you please state your qualifications for us?
Sure. Greg Parker, I'm a licensed professional engineer, licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey and also in the state of Florida. I graduated from Penn State University with a Faculty of Science and Civil Engineering. I received my license to practice in 1976, and I've been practicing locally ever since then. And Mark will vouch for me.
All right, thank you.
I'd ask the board to accept Mr. Carpenter as an engineer. He's definitely an expert.
I don't know, have you read this entered into evidence? You might want to do this rendering. Along here. Oh, this is the drawings that were submitted. Do I need to mark them?
The first one is a rendering.
Yes. Mr. Carpenter, you just outlined which one is the more related.
All right. A1 is a artist rendering of the Spinrite Tap House showing the outside of the forward rendering. I'll put it up here on the board. If you want to look at it even closer, I'll hand it around. If you want to look at it, we'll pass it around.
Yeah,
Sure.
please.
A2 is the 2 sheets of the site plan that were submitted with the application. A3 is a copy of the certificate of occupancy for the restaurant issued by the buyer, Mark, for Spring Heights. Okay? You want to read this in just?
Sure. Mr. Carpenter, you've reviewed Mr. Lubasco's letter of May 9, 2016, is that correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Lubasco had listed on page 4 a number of issues that he would like us to address as applicants.
Correct.
The first one of those is that we should discuss the outdoor seating area, and I guess this is the time you say that you're passing around.
Right. Based on page 2 of 4, we list the variances that are required, the bulk variances, and at the bottom of the page, we list we need a use variance for outside dining in the B2 zone. I'd like to address the bulk variances first. If you look at the sheet 2 of the letter that goes down the zoning requirements, point out that the minimum lot area is 18,000 square feet. We have 16,940 square feet. That's an existing nonconformity. There's nothing we can do about that. Lot frontage, lot depth, and front yard setback from Route 71, we can comply. The front yard setback on Mercer, which is 30 feet required, we have 4.15, that's an existing nonconformance. The side yard on the east side required 10, we have 92 or 25 feet. Side yard on the south side, 10 feet required, 11.47 feet provided. South side yard setback on the south side, 5 foot, and I believe that's the freezers that are on the south side of the property is 0 feet. That's an existing nonconformance. And the side yard on the east side is 5 feet required and 90 feet existing. These are for accessory uses. The maximum height for principal structure is 35 feet or less than 35 feet. Maximum building coverage principal is 50%. We have 19.49%, and we're not making that any larger. The street sidewalk, the rear sidewalk on the Route 71 side of the site, which wraps around to Mercer, to the end of the radius, and also it leads right into the front of the tap house. And then there's no more sidewalk on Mercer. Where that's an existing nonconformance. All your pervious coverages, 75% is required. We have 70.6 existing nonconformance and 84.29% we're asking for variance. Now, I know that pavers has impervious coverage, but that's what the area of the outside patio is going to be. It's going to be a paver area. I'll get into that further when we talk about some of the other things that Mr. Lebowski put up in his letter. The off-street parking spaces, required by your ordinance is 58, existing is 22, proposed is 22. This is where I'd like to get into a little bit of the situation we have. Based on your ordinance, based on the seating in the restaurant, bar area, you'll see the table where we list the parking requirements. We have an occupancy based on seating provided of 119 people. We're proposing adding 64 to that. The one caveat that this doesn't take into account is you have a bar. There's a standing area. It's 3 feet beyond the bar stools around the entire perimeter of the bar. That's not accounted for in your parking requirements. They only deal with tables and the seating at the bar, and that's how you come up with 119. What I'd like to point out is that your fire marshal takes into account all the square footage in the entire restaurant area. And based on, and this is dated 5/20/14, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Borough of Spring Lake Heights. If the area of the restaurant were all standing, there's no tables, there's no bar stools, you would have an occupancy of 300 people. If you have chairs only, no tables, just chairs like around a bar, maybe some chairs around the outside walls, you're allowed 214 people. If you take out all the bar stools and you take all the standing area and everything, just tables, you have an occupancy of 100. Now, based on my going in and measuring up the floor area of the restaurant, you would have 601 square feet of standing room. You have 234 square feet of bar stools. You have 685 square feet presently of table area. When you apply the code, which is referred to up here, the NJAC 5-70-2 .112, parentheses B3, I have a copy of it, I can pass that around too. You come up with an occupancy of this building, as it stands right now, of 199 people. No change to the floor plan, exactly the way it is.
With 22 parking spaces.
The 22 parking spaces. That's as it exists right now. We're proposing, based on your parking requirements, 119 existing plus 64 more would be 183. As you can see, they don't really relate because your parking requirements don't take into account the standing room only. And that's where a good percentage of the occupancy happens. Now, Mr. Durkin says that what he wants to do is he wants to maintain exactly this. In other words, we will be bound by 199 occupants in that building at any one given time, whether they're sitting outside in the patio or whether they're standing in the bar. And that's, the idea is to lessen any impact of the additional patio on the use of the property. So we're not trying to, add to the use, we're just expanding the area of use. And it's seasonal. It's going to be probably from Memorial Day to a couple of weeks after Labor Day. That's pretty much the tradition. I think most of your bars have a seasonal license that's from May 1st to October 1st. So that's the kind of area that we're looking for. So, and the other thing is, Mr. Durkin was correct. I've done a number of these restaurants, not only outside dining, but expansion of existing restaurant areas. And it's a whole different genre right now. People don't drive to bars and restaurants if they're going to stay for any extended period of time. They take a cab, they take an Uber, they walk, they take a bike, scooter, because of the laws that are in place now for drunk driving. It's just not worth the risk. And I can show you numerous places where on Saturday night at 10 o'clock at night, you can pull in and there's parking spaces in the parking lot. It's because, and then at 12 o'clock, you'll see a line of cabs and Uber vehicles lined up to pick up the patrons. So the ordinance was written when there's a different clientele out there using these facilities. And that's why we feel that the 22 parking spaces, we're not expanding it. We're really not expanding the use because the same amount of people that can use the facility now will be limited to the patio. So when the patio is not in use, they're going to have 199 people. When the patio is in use, they're going to have 199 people. Nothing's going to change.
How are you going to maintain it?
You could have somebody standing at the door, and to tell you the truth, I don't know if you've ever talked to the fire marshals, they can walk into that restaurant at any time and go walk around and count people, and if they got more than 199 people, they'll shut the place down.
Why? Because the fire marshal says 300 or 214.
If it's all standing, in other words, we take out all the tables, we take out all the bar stools, and nothing but standing room only in the bar.
So wait a minute, so according to that, tables and chairs is 100, you're putting 64, that would be 164, right?
No, this is, you're missing my point. This is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is approved now. We're not
Okay.
going to expand that. And this is based on, the restaurant is 1,500 square feet, okay? So the ratio for standing is you need 5 square feet for every person standing.
Okay.
5 times 300 is 1,500. For chairs only, you need 7 square feet. I think 7 square feet. Yeah, 7 square feet. And for chairs and tables, you need 15 square feet. If you do the math, it's 1,500, 1,500, 1,500. So that's how these numbers were arrived at. The restaurant measures 1,500 square feet of floor space that's usable. And if you use it all for standing, you can put 300 in there for chairs or tables. You cover all the scenarios, but what we're using now, if you walk into that restaurant right now, you would come up with these numbers that I just came up with. I measured the place today,
What is the 82 and 37 about then?
82 and 37.
It says 82 seated, 37 at the bar. Yeah, that's what somebody just said.
No, I said,
No, not you.
oh,
It's on the plan.
It's on the plan.
yeah, there's 37,
Bar seats.
right,
Okay.
37, well, let me get the chart up. We're all looking at the same number. Right, there's 37 bar seats. But see, you're saying kind of seats. If you do the fire calculations, it's based on square foot.
Okay, I got that. But why do we have 82 and 37? Because you can sit 82 people at the chairs or tables that are there now, and you can sit 37 people at the bar.
That's correct, it's 119.
And you take that 119, and that gives you the 58 parking spaces, correct?
Based on that.
Based on that,
Um,
not on the new DUI laws or anything, based on that.
So that's, the 58 parking spaces is based on adding 64 seats out front.
It is?
Yeah.
That's why you need 58? I thought it,
Right,
Okay.
right now they have 22, yeah, and if they add that, they need 58.
okay. What, they only need 22 spots for that?
They have 22 now.
We only have 22 now.
Okay, what do you need for what you have now? Are you 90?
We're 94 now, we need 37 by your ordinance now.
Okay.
And
You're over and you want to increase,
And
correct?
your assumption that people take Uber and bicycles and all this other stuff, how come?
Well,
we're
it's
gonna-
not an assumption, this is, it's.
Oh, yeah, but we all live
But
here.
we live here, we go by there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not gonna get a parking place unless you park on the street.
And the streets are both sides of Mercer Avenue, you always have cars on. it. And the lot is almost always full, late afternoon, early evening. I mean, that's the fact.
But what you gotta understand is, that may be the condition now, we're not exacerbating. Because what we're saying is, the amount of people that are allowed to be in the restaurant today is gonna be the maximum amount of people that are gonna be allowed in the restaurant once the patio is open.
Let's say a third of those people took a car. Now you're adding to the street and the parking in the lot that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, but what we're saying is, the people sitting outside are not gonna,
You're saying you're going to add 64 seats and you're not going to add any cars?
because we're gonna take 64
People from inside and
inside and
outside?
outside.
We're proposing not to increase, we don't think maximum occupancy, the current use.
Here's what I'm saying. You have a crowd around the bar, and you're not going to affect the crowd around the bar. They're going to still be too deep, like you said, or
Whatever.
all the seats are filled. Then you have all these people at these tables, and more people are going to come in and want to eat outside. I get it, it's beautiful to eat outside. You're going to increase the amount of patrons you can serve meals to.
Well, theoretically, we could put somebody at the door to count people, just say, no, that's it. They do it at the Osprey in Manasquan every weekend.
We're not in the Osprey, we're talking about Spring Lake
I
Commons.
understand that, but it's something that you can do. You put somebody at the door.
Okay.
There's really only one door
Well,
in
they have a cover
there.
charge there too.
What's that?
They have a cover charge there too, so of course there's somebody at the door, they know how many people are coming in and out.
But they're also cognizant of the fact of how many people they're allowed to have in the place.
I don't think it was-
Because they don't want to be shut down.
Okay.
So if I can just be clear,
Sure.
right now you have 119 seats inside the whole
No,
restaurant.
we have capacity based on your parking standard of 119 people.
How many seats do you have, how many people can you actually seat?
We can seat
And
119
you can
people.
seat, and then you have people standing as
And
well?
but that doesn't take into account the amount of people that can stand.
Okay, so let's just take that as a minimum of 119. Then you're proposing 64 seats outside.
Right.
Okay, so you could have 183 people sitting at any
Sitting.
particular time,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, but what I'm understanding, what you're saying, and Mr. Jordan said earlier, is that you're going to keep limiting it to 119 people, whether they're inside or outside. Is that what you're saying?
199.
199. But 199 is based on the fire marshal's code.
So that's kind of, right, I understand that. But I don't know, I feel like I had the impression from some of the discussion that you weren't really adding any more people because more people want to sit outside and they won't sit inside.
Well, if we
But
limit,
really, you can still have all those people sitting inside.
if we limit the occupancy to 199 people. We're allowed to put 199 people in that space right now. By the,
At 199, you turn away customers, Mr. Durkin will turn away customers.
if he puts more than 199 people into the building, he would be in violation of
That's-
Well,
the.
not if they were out on the patio.
Only if they're sitting, right?
Huh?
Only if they're sitting.
Right, what if they were out on the patio? Oh,
Yeah, they could be 3 deep at the bar, and it doesn't count on the 199 people.
Well, the testimony is that
Yes,
he's going
yes,
to.
it does.
199 counts everybody in the building.
199 people is not based on an amount of seats, amount of chairs, tables, or anything. It's based on
That's
square
maximum
feet.
occupancy.
Was that
That's maximum occupancy.
based on the square footage of the uses that are in the building as it exists today, as I measured it?
But does that take into account but that doesn't take into account the outside. So you can have 199 people based on the square footage of the inside of the building. And then you can have how many people outside, you can have as many people as
No,
seats
because
that you
we're
have.
going to limit the occupancy to 199 people.
why?
Inside, but so if you have 199 people inside, then you wouldn't have anybody outside.
Well, we feel we have to get permission to do this. You know, that's part of the.
But you don't have to for fire code, right?
For the fire code,
You
we,
don't have to.
Well,
I don't believe.
what you got to understand is, the fire code is only for interior restaurant. It does not affect the patio whatsoever.
So you could really have the 199 and the 64 seats from outside. You could have that many people there at one time.
Theoretically, but we
if
don't
there were full,
want
But
that.
you don't normally have that.
We don't want to. We want to limit it to the occupancy that we have now.
Mr. Carpenter, if you had 64 people outside, you'd have 64 people less inside. So
That's correct, yes.
And then we'll tell them.
I think that's what
I
his
think that's what they're
argument.
saying, but I don't know how that's going
Just-
to really happen.
Just clear, I'm just
Yeah.
clarifying his argument.
Okay.
The argument is if we get these 64 people who are seated outside, we will subtract 64 from our 199
Inside.
inside.
Okay.
So when the fire marshal comes next year to, let's just say that this is granted and the patio is outside and the fire marshal comes to take his account of the building, this would end up being the same because he wouldn't be counting the patio space?
That's correct. Fire marshal has no control over the patio because it's outside, it's not enclosed.
I have a question about parking. Presently, you have 22 spaces off-street parking, where 37 are required. Do you know how that ever came about, that you were allowed to have 22 when 37 was required? Did you ever come to a board, or was that in a site plan that was approved?
I believe
Does
they,
anybody have any
I
idea?
think they bought it in that condition.
yeah, this,
So that was
Existing non-conforming.
this was the Champagne Porch
Okay,
years
so
ago.
they had-
It was the
okay.
same lot.
Okay, and so now you want to increase that to 58?
No,
And you don't want to increase it. You
You should increase to 58, but you're not changing it, correct?
well,
I know,
because the parking doesn't relate to the fact that the 64 people that are outside are not going to be on the inside.
So then if you were to get the outside seating, then you would be limiting the number of people inside to 135.
That's
So
correct.
135 inside and 64 outside.
That's
So
correct.
that 199 would not change
That's
that
correct.
the outside.
But if there were 199 people inside and the fire marshal were to show up and say, oh, you're at your max, but there were still an additional 64 outside,
We're not going to permit that.
no, they're gonna cut it to 199
you were
total.
saying that it would be in violation, but you actually would not be in violation.
Well, we wouldn't be in violation of the fire marshal, but we'd be in violation of, if you grant us the approval, because we're going to limit ourselves to 199 people.
Essentially, I think what we're saying is there's no net increase. The pre-existing non-conformity is there should be 37, there's 22.
Well, without the fire marshal, there's no oversight.
There's no, well, there is.
The fire marshal
There are
is
code
involved, there is
enforcement.
oversight.
Yeah, your code enforcement officer would have it.
Right, but you're still, you're gonna increase your seating by 64. Forget occupancy or anything else, you can increase your seating by 64, but you're not going to increase your parking, because you can't.
Right, but what
I mean,
I'm saying
again,
is
you
with
can't.
the limits that we're proposing, it should be 37 now, it's 22. If this board approves our application with the restrictions that we're proposing, the net, there's no net change. There still should be 37, and there will be only 22. There'll be no net change.
Well, there should be 58.
No, because
No,
the 64
because we're saying
tables,
we're agreeing to keep it to the same number. The same number would be now. There should be 37 now,
Is there a written agreement with the office building across the street?
not to my knowledge.
No.
You see, I think we're doing apples and oranges with this 199, because I think that we have to go back to the 37 and one, you know, the number that comes to 119. We're going to increase the 119 number by 64. And the 119 number is what the parking spaces were based on, right? Is that right?
119
Is the
is what the 37 is based on.
37 is based on, and now the additional 64 brings it up to 58.
But see,
Correct?
what I'm
In theory,
trying to,
Without the restrictions.
Right, and
what I'm trying to allude to is your ordinance doesn't address standing room
okay,
and anything, whether it be a hotel, restaurant, or retail. You know, it's based, retail for most parking requirements is based on square feet, because obviously people are not sitting down in a retail store.
right, but in a bar, it's based on seating.
For parking, correct.
For parking.
But it negates the fact that, I mean, you go into the restaurant, there's no place to sit. So,
I mean,
how do you relegate the parking there?
I get it, but what this is gonna do, this is gonna make it more attractive, make it more people wanna come here to eat. You're gonna fill up inside, or you're gonna fill up outside and people are gonna take inside seats. You may not go over the 199, I'm not saying you're gonna go over the 199, but you're gonna have more people driving or coming to the restaurant, hopefully. 64 outside and 119 inside.
And more people-
Sitting.
and more people standing inside, waiting for seats outside.
Well, there's only so much capacity with the kitchen. Of course, we want to put the outside dining to attract people, because they're not going to eat there, they want to eat outside. But what we're saying is, that there's only so much capacity, and we're willing to restrict that. We would rather serve the people outside in the summer months that want to eat there than to have them inside.
You just said that according to our ordinance, the standing room is not counted in the parking.
That's correct.
If it was counted with the number of people there, you'd even need more parking spaces, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. So we have a situation where you have less than what is required at the present time, and you want to increase the amount, you want to keep it the same, whereas it should increase if you add the 64 to 50.
Not going to increase, because by the square footage in the building, you're allowed 199 people. Today, I could put 199 people
That
in that
includes,
restaurant.
that includes everybody standing at the bar.
That's correct.
Okay, so 199 total.
Right. So whether they're standing at the bar, sitting at the table in the restaurant now, or sitting at the bar, doesn't matter. So if there's 64 of them sitting outside, it would be 64 or less sitting inside. Simply by, like I say, we have one access point in and out of the restaurant. You put somebody at the door counting the people in and out. When it reaches 99, you stop.
How about that little gate?
And we have to have that for emergency purposes.
I know, but
It'll swing out, it won't swing in.
electric,
Well,
exit
it'd
door.
be kind of like you see in a store where they have the push for emergency, God forbid there's ever a fire or something like that. You don't want people that have to go through the bar.
It won't be just a regular gate, it will be
No,
an electric.
no. It'll be an emergency access or emergency egress.
To sum up that point from before, It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. We realize there's parking there, we can't go back in time, it is what it is. What we're proposing is to make the pre-existing non-conforming use more aesthetically pleasing, more attractive to people who want to come there and dine rather than crowd around the bar, and make it a nicer place to go to. The parking problems are there now, they're not going to go away. So the 22 versus the 37 is not going to change. It's still going to be 22 versus 37. The only difference now will be, we'll have the improvement in the front and the outdoor dining.
Did you say parking problems are there now and they won't go away? What did you say?
Well, I'm recapping what you had said earlier. I believe it was you that you drove down and saw.
So there are parking problems there now.
I was recapping what you were saying.
Oh.
If your concern is that.
You haven't noticed any problem with the parking there and it being on the street, right?
Every time I've gone there, I've parked in the lot, but I'm not going there at 2 in the morning, so I don't know. But in terms of this time of dining, again, we're saying we're cutting off at 9. I've been there before 9 many times, and every time I've been able to park in the lot.
Well, let's say hypothetically, if there are parking problems now, they're not going to get better with an increased dining area outside.
Well, that's my point. They're not going to get worse. You're saying you believe there's a problem. What I'm saying is, it's still going to be there, whether this application is approved or not, if you perceive it to be a problem. We're not proposing an increase of it.
We have to establish that there is a problem. In fact, I believe you can possibly ask comments from the audience of the neighbors whether they feel that there's a major parking problem at this site.
But it sounds like you're not proposing to increase the number of people, because you're saying that you're still going to limit it to one number.
That's correct.
So the number of people that can go there today without the outdoor seating.
That's
is
correct.
The same number of people that's going to go there if you do get the outdoor seating. Right? That's what I'm
That's correct,
understanding.
yeah. One point I want to clarify. The restaurant is not a non-conforming use. The outside patio is the non-conforming use. So we're not expanding a non-conforming use, we're just adding the outside patio.
Well, you're expanding the non-conforming use with parking, aren't you?
No,
No?
that's not considered a use, that's both factors.
used for non-conforming, but not used for.
Well, we have a nonconformity in the total lot coverage. 75% is required. You have 78.6, and you want to go up to 84.29 as lot coverage. I'm surprised you didn't ask for 100%. I mean, 84 is pretty close.
Well, what we're thinking of doing, and you can talk to Bergen, is there is no stormwater maintenance, stormwater management system on site. And what we're proposing to do is, we really only have the front yard to work with, try and put in a stormwater management system to reduce the present stormwater runoff from the site. And that goes to offset the amount of impervious coverage that we're going to add, because it'll be basically negated by the fact we'll provide a system to not only pick up that water, but pick up additional water that has no destination, let's put it that way.
Can gutters from both sides of the building be brought around to this stormwater management?
Yes, it can. My only concern is the depth of the groundwater table in that area might limit me to the size of the system that I can put in.
But go longer instead of deeper?
Well, you have to, the design principles are you have to be 2 feet above the seasonal high water table with your recharge system. And Mr. Labasco can vouch for that.
Yes, that's 2 feet above.
Where is the water table there? How far below?
I'm not too sure. I do know it's probably somewhere around 6 to 8 feet.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be.
Because it's very close to that little flood zone, right?
No.
I mean,
Well, not the old. The newer houses, closer to the railroad tracks on that street, have basements.
Well, actually, where Acre Survey used to be,
Right.
he has a basement.
He's also elevated. The terrain obviously is higher.
Yeah, he's a little higher, but I will tell you, having been in the basement,
Yeah, well, you were probably like
it's
crouched
about
down.
6 foot.
Do you intend to serve liquor outside, I imagine? Beer, wine, and drinks?
Yeah.
Does your license allow that at this point in time? Do you have to do something about that?
That I would leave up to the attorney.
I don't believe so, but I can bring Mr. Durkin.
You don't believe so that it allows it?
I don't believe anything more would need to be done with the license, but I'll have to bring another witness on that subject.
So you can, I've never heard a place that had indoor drinking all of a sudden just automatically
You have to make-
allows to drink
you have to make
outside.
you have to make an application to expand the liquor license premise.
You have to go to ABC.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So you haven't done that yet?
No, not the list.
So that's contingent on what happens?
Exactly.
Can I ask a
Probably have
question
one
about-
question.
Sure.
The property, the brick wall that you're putting in place,
Yes.
it's going to be 3 feet high.
Yeah.
you mentioned it.
Right.
Highway 71 is a 35-mile-per-hour road. From a safety standpoint, what is that going to be able to do? God forbid a car, someone from driving, perhaps.
We could build that wall so that it's equivalent to what they call a Jersey barrier, which is 36 inches high, with reinforcing in it, and literally short of a semi-tractor trailer going 60 miles an hour, I think it would deflect it.
So that was your intent
Yes.
to do that?
Yes, and then you got to understand too, that we're also talking about being approximately 16, 17 feet from the edge of the road.
So you're talking poured-in-place construction?
What's that?
Poured-in-place?
Well, the wall might be a poured-in-place wall, but it'd have a brick veneer on it.
I have a question about the photograph and the way it looks on the photograph and the way it looks on the drawing. And just want to make sure that, it looks
Yes.
on the photograph that wall is pretty much coming out to, so the width of the proposed apartment is about 16 feet. And it's about 16 feet from there to the curb or the end of the property. So it looks like it's about halfway of what's there now. It looks like you could get about half the width of what's there now.
It's, it's about 30 feet now, 33 feet, actually.
The drawing, it looks like it's coming out quite a bit further. And
Well,
I'm
when you do a 3D rendering,
I'm just-
you have to give it a little bit.
There's also only 5 umbrellas, there's only 5 tables over there.
I don't know how to
Yeah,
get-
just a quick comment about the rendering.
Sure,
So it's
yeah.
a photorealistic 3D
Yeah,
rendering. So
I understand.
the engine, Mr. Carpenter's plan would be 110% accurate.
Okay.
The photo rendering is as close as it can get with perspective.
Okay.
The record definition, Mr. Rice.
Are you planning on having portable heaters out there, propane heaters?
We didn't, Mr. Weiss, we didn't think about that yet. That's not true, you know, it could be, well, because we don't, we're planning to be open for the summer months, more or less, and where's the limit to be, places.
Summer showed up today. If you were open up 2 weeks ago, you'd be freezing out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Mr. Carpenter, I have a question for you. And it has to do with the maximum lot coverage. I know that you have a lot of, I guess, asphalt in the back, and they're all taken up with parking spaces.
Right.
And the front patio, you're going to be adding additional, there'll be some seepage there, with water, and you're gonna put in a storm,
Management system.
yeah, system. But I was wondering if you had thought long and hard and, collectively, if there was any way that you could get the maximum lot coverage to remain the same without exceeding, what you're proposing.
In other words, you don't want us to exceed the existing
That's,
Not very-
yeah, like, right, the existing is 78.6, you're going up to 84.29. And, that to me is, increasing substantially an already non-conformity.
From an engineering standpoint, I can do anything, but from an architectural standpoint, there might be some limitations. I would try to leave something like that up to the architect. There might be some ways of reducing our footprint and still accommodating what we need to keep the
You don't want to
building.
cut out apartments.
What's the difference between 22 and 21? That doesn't make any difference.
But anyway, do you know why the number 64, for seating was proposed? Because let's say you said, we just want 20, or we just want 30.
Well,
Then maybe you wouldn't need the patio to be so large, and maybe, that could bring you in closer to what the existing.
And then
That would be something that obviously the applicant would have to.
Are you aware where the number 64?
I was told to draw the patio from the existing sidewalk that leads out of the emergency building out the front over to the edge of the existing building because they felt that was the most aesthetic. You don't want to put a 10 by 10 area out there. It would look kind of cheap. And based on the square footage of the patio, there's a ratio you use to come up with the tables, and that's how we came up with 64. With 4 people sitting at a table, we need, 100 square feet or something like that.
Didn't you say 15 square foot per person per table? Table and chairs?
That's the fire ratio. You got it, it's funny, where they came up with their numbers, I don't know, but in reality, about 100 square feet, is that right, Ken? Something like that, 80 or 100 square feet for a table of 4. Now that would be, if it was 80, that would be 20, so.
Mr. Chairman, my point indicated too, if the board was inclined to be interested in perhaps granting the application with a lesser number of tables, he would be inclined to amend the application for
Mr. Dirksen, I see you've come back. Could you just maybe give us a little background on why you decided 64?
Quite frankly, I think it was done more or less to a formula. We have this amount of area out there, and this area that Mr. Carpenter, how he articulated, we reached 64. Sitting, listening to the various arguments, I think that scaling it back may be a good compromise. That could be a way to not really increase the traffic and parking in the area, but yet accomplish what we're looking to accomplish by having a nice outside dining area. So I'm picking out, I said 64, I'll go to 40, and drop it down. And
That
that's
still
not.
doesn't change the number of patrons that you're having in the restaurant.
Absolutely not, absolutely not.
If you did that, would you reduce the size of the impervious coverage?
You could grass in some stuff there, like a little grassy patch, if you're cutting out some pavers or.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
The parking arrangement that you have with the business, how many spaces do they provide you?
I believe it's like 22 spots over there, but it might be 20, I'm not really sure.
But that is, you have no written agreement.
No, it's not a handshake, it's been that way well before we were there, and I've spoken to the owners of the building, they're fine with us. And I spoke to them yesterday, no issues. They more or less use it at night, they have it during the day, we have it at night.
But that's contingent on the owners that own it at the present time.
Correct, correct.
Do they have signage saying vehicles towed in owners?
Well, one of the owners is a lawyer, and he's using that for his protection.
Okay.
In the unlikely event there's a
Okay.
slip and fall.
But I did, I'm
Yeah.
patient, so I park there.
So yeah, absolutely, permitted to park there.
Scary.
Anybody else? Yeah, let's move on. Okay, do you have next professionals?
There was one other variance that we can talk about, and that's this fence being more than 3 feet.
Hmm,
That should be talked about.
okay.
Height.
So, Mr. Carpenter, I guess what Mr. Blasco is saying is that the maximum height is 3 feet. Now you propose 36 inches. Could the same?
It's 36 inches with a granite.
Yeah, we have a decorative railing on the top for
So does that
aesthetic
count?
purposes.
And
I think it would count.
that would count. So the wall is 3 feet. And then how high is the decorative railing?
Foot,
A foot, so it would be 4
maybe
feet.
foot, 16 inches.
Yeah, just wanted, that's another variance.
If it pushes back any, does that change it? No.
No,
I think, you know, the intent of that fence height ordinance is for, well, a solid white vinyl fence or whatever fence. This is really not fence. That 36 inch of, we'll call it bulkhead to protect them from traffic and garbage or whatever is the important part. But I think if you look closely at the rendering, that additional, whatever it is, 16, 18 inches, it's open, it's decorative grill work. I'm not sure it is a fence, but we think it certainly helps the aesthetics, which is always important, right on the front of a building that faces a highway. I think it's important for the patrons there too, when you're sitting, that railing will be here as opposed to here. You know, just noise, aesthetics, you know, and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's up to you, of course. I don't know that.
The site triangle?
That does not aesthetic.
that's not affected by the site triangle, no. You got 25 feet on each property leg, it's not in a site triangle.
I think that additional, again, 16 or 18 inches, personally, I don't know that it hurts your fence ordinance, but it certainly helps the aesthetics. So it's something we hope you consider. Otherwise, we just have the brick wall at 36, and that would be okay, but I think it's sort of nicer this one.
Mark, I have a question for you. Should we open up, you know, to the public for Mr. Carpenter?
Well, you can have, you can do it a couple of ways, Mr. Chairman. You can take questions at the end of all the testimony, and then people can comment. You can do it after the committees. You didn't do it for Mr. Durkin, so.
Okay. So we'll hold to the end.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Rice, I know Mr. Carpenter touched on these, but could you just go into?
Do you want me to do it?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have been before this board before for many, many years. My name is Christopher Rice, R-I-C-E. I actually grew up in town. My office is in Seagirt. I presently live in Manasquan. I've been an architect for a long time. I've been chairman of Manasquan's board for a long time, and again, I've been before this board, other boards in this area.
And it's been accepted by the board.
That's an expert architect only that we had, Mr. Carpenter. Well, I was going to say, you know, my role, you know, was fortunately not to do all those numbers that you talked about earlier, but I did the aesthetics. You know, so as the architect, you know, this photorealistic rendering you can see, you know, was designed, you know, by me, you know, of course, in conjunction with the owners and others. You know, aesthetically, you know, as Mr. Durkin kept saying, it's a big part of the project, whether it was 64 or 44 people. It started as, what can we do to this area? We walk that area all the time. There is a nice tree there. That's about it. The rest is gravel and cigarettes and stuff, really coming from the highway, quite honestly. So we thought it'd be smart to kind of solidly mark our area and territory. So that brick wall, I think, goes a long way. And to Mr. Quinn's point, you know, for stray cars, hopefully not. Again, back to the gate, the railing, we think that's all aesthetic. We hope you can appreciate, you know, there's a theme to this, if you recall, right? So it's the champagne porch, well, laughs, we all remember laughs, right? Champagne porch, and the porch. So they did this front, you know, called a facelift. There's a theme to it, you know, that's to express a certain type of architecture, you know, it's kind of reminiscent of something that you might see a little bit further down south, I don't mean New Jersey, I mean south, you know, with the brick and stuff like that, and that roof line. So we think they did a good job here. We just thought we really should turn the corner. We should really address the highway side. And I think a combination of, you can see above the door there, that's a pergola, right? You've seen those before, people using their garden. We thought if we did one of those over the door, that might, again, enhance the garden feel of being outside. Again, we're on a highway. There's no fooling anyone when you're eating out here that you're in a garden. But tables with umbrellas, the lights on the corners, a little decorative railing, We think goes a long way to enhance the experience out there. And just a quick comment on the number. It'll be hard to get 64 people in there comfortably eating, guys my size anyway. I think, the realistic number there was, 50-ish, but Mr. Durkin said it, could even go maybe a little lower. So I don't know that any of us would see a big difference before 40. Again, I don't think it's 64 out there. And the coverage would go down, the impervious. If the number goes down, I think we'd want to maybe reshape it a little bit. Impervious would go down, and we'll look strongly at the materials we use. Mr. Carpenter's idea of doing that drainage is better than all that done. I'd rather have 100% coverage, but a drainage system. Now we're not putting water anywhere. So you're right, it went up a little bit, but what he's going to do, kind of dispels all of it. So there's probably a happy medium in there somewhere. So, Mr. Durkin as part of Mr. Sullivan, they've hopefully all been there at some point. They've done a lot of really kind of good stuff inside. Spent a lot of money in there too. There's some neat materials, and I'd like to see them, have something out here. So that was my role.
Anyone have a question for Mr. Wrench?
But how many tables do you think can actually fit in that space?
Well, that's a good question, kind of what size of the table. I think it's also important to remember, so if this were approved and built, it's only open a certain amount of months. It's really only open during those dinner hours. Again, once dinner's over, there's no one out there. I think it's going to be a lot of more times. Yeah, I
You're
think
saying
so.
that people who wander out there after dinner hours over and have cocktails out on the
They won't be able to.
You're gonna lock that door.
Yeah. I mean, that's the intent. I'm not the owner. That was the intent, was that's for diners. And by the way, if I see someone smoking out there, I'll give them a ticket personally. That is, that goes beyond, whatever. But, so to answer your question, 4 tops sometimes fold up into a 6, where you take 2 twos, put them together for 4. I think 50 people out there would be comfortable. Less would be a little more comfortable.
And this might be for Mr. Charles, related. The lighting that you're proposing to use, will it be contained pretty much on the patio, or will it spill over onto the sidewalk, or they can
No,
next door?
The intent is really just atmosphere lighting around the perimeter. We clearly want it contained. There's enough lighting where you're going out there on the highway that, to eat at. We talked about the idea of the umbrellas. They have those lights that are on them. Have you seen those? It's kind of neat. The umbrella goes up, the light comes on, so it lights your table. It's a great way to contain lighting for just that table. So yeah, to answer your question, we're going to be sensitive to the lighting. Very sensitive.
Board members, anyone?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's the conclusion of our testimony this evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, Mark, I guess we will open this up to the
Public can now, if any members of the public have any questions for the witnesses.
So if anybody has any comments or questions for any of the things, come on over, sir.
Right now, we're just going to have questions now. There's time for comment.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just say one time.
Anyone have any questions?
Are you asking only for questions?
Right now. In a minute, please.
You have a question? You can
I have
ask
a question, but I don't know that it pertains to...
Well, come on up and state your name, and we'll swear you in, and... Yeah, we'll swear you in.
Come on up to the front. I'm not going to swear you in for a question. Later, if you make a comment, I'm going to have to swear you in. So if you just go
This is Paris.
right up there and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Catherine Paris, and I live at 607 Mercer Avenue. And I've owned the property for about the past 50 years.
What was your last name? I didn't hear.
Paris, K-E-R-R-I-S, it's misspelled on your list. The S was correct.
Did you say 50?
That's not my...
50 of my 75 years. I have technically been the owner of that property. My question is probably to the town as opposed, and that's you guys, right? And Dow. Why am I the only person? I shouldn't say I'm the only. The residents, the homeowners on the other side of the street were not invited to this meeting. I'm wondering why. Now, I know you have some sort of a regulation.
Anyone who lives within 200 feet of this property, they're required to be notified for this hearing.
Okay. Well, I live 5 houses down. Right across the street from me are a couple of residents who are quite concerned about an existing parking problem that predates the Tap House, which is a wonderful place to eat and drink, I suppose. And so they were offended that they were not invited tonight.
But they still could have, they could have come.
Well, I didn't realize that they weren't on the list because I didn't read the list thoroughly.
You know their addresses and how,
So, yes.
and what would that be?
Well, I'm 607, so we're talking.
Where are we, if I don't mean to interrupt you, but first of all, this is a question. I hope the question is answered, but this is a public meeting, and whether or not people are on the list or not, anybody from the public can come to the meeting. And they have a right to be heard at the meeting. You can't testify for somebody else.
Okay. They didn't know about the meeting until the 11th hour, and it was too late for them to plan to come. So,
Now, can I ask you a question, please? Then you said they didn't know about it until the 11th hour. Was that when you told them, or they got a? So, I'm concerned that there are people that may live within 200 feet that weren't noticed. So how do we find that
We
out?
don't know if they live within 200 feet.
Well, that's it. Yes, we don't know. So how do we know?
And this is someone who goes the street from her, so
How many houses are you down from the tap?
5.
So you're just on the edge of.
Right,
the
she's on
notice.
block 4.
So right across the street from you is outside.
It's outside 200 feet.
Okay, so they're
So
not
they
on.
could have come to the meeting, you're saying, had they known about it, but they
Well, it's
didn't know
published.
about it.
yeah, it's in the newspaper. The applicant did everything that they were required to do under the law
I
to provide
understand.
notice.
Okay. That's my only question. Do you wait for comments? Thank you.
Please.
Don't go too far. Are there any other questions from the public? Seeing that there's no more questions, now we're going to open it up to.
We need to close.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Do we need a motion?
Just gonna go to the front.
All right.
State your name and address for the record, and I'll swear you in.
My name is Jim Gaines, H-A-N-E-S. Speaking on behalf of my wife as well, Sharon Sweeney. We're owners and residents of 611 Mercer Avenue.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in today's proceeding? And the spelling of your last name is D-J-N-E-S? Thank you.
I was here almost exactly 1 year ago to speak about the scenario that has been played out on Mercer Avenue. A few new faces and a few familiar faces. First, I'd like to say that I am pro-business, pro-small business, and I appreciate what you guys do. Okay, I appreciate your success. I wish you nothing but more success. But I think that just sitting here tonight and from last year, I made a lot of different suggestions and complaints about the neighborhood, which I'm not going to get into because we're really here just talking about parking. It's been incredibly understated what the parking problem is. The parking problem is extreme. Okay? We're talking I'm talking every single sporting event, from every playoff game to every weekend in every season. The parking is extreme. In addition to just the parking, but I'm also talking about K-turns and traffic until 2:30 in the morning. And I'm not even going to start to talk about the screaming, the beer bottles, and the debauchery, which I like to call it. But specific to you guys are really focusing, and I appreciate all the questions that you asked, because they really honed in on the problem, is that they're trying to make the place more attractive, which is good for business. But better business and more attractive means more people and more cars. Now, they can quote fire department regs, they can quote all these different occupancy numbers. But I think as residents of our town, people who live down the street from other pubs and places like that, more attractive equals more people, which equals more traffic and more parking. And I'm completely opposed to any expansion of any bar or any club in my town. The fact that they're comparing it to the Osprey, the fact that Manasquan and Belmar and those types of towns are even mentioned in this conversation is sad to me. Because I didn't move to Belmar, I didn't move to Manasquan, I moved to Spring Lake Heights. So I paid a lot of money for my mortgage. And I understand that when I bought the place, as a few years back when it was the porch, that of course you're taking into a little bit of account that there's going to be crowds at a public establishment. But more attractive outdoor seating, that type of thing, draws more attention. Which, like I said, better business, that's good for the economy, that's good for America. It's not good for the neighborhood. We're talking as Spring Lake Heights residents. If you want to make it a better place to go and more outdoor seating, I would just ask you, instead of just driving down the street on a Thursday, please drive down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday night. Okay? The parking is the least of the worries. Okay? So I appreciate you guys' time, and I look forward to seeing what happens. Thank you.
Wait a minute. I have, just wanted to ask you something. In their proposal, they're asking for additional seating, but they're asking for no additional use of the entire place. Is that,
I think they were all pretty realistic with use common sense. And like I said, you can quote these numbers all you want. There's gonna be more people in that place, and there's gonna be more cars. In my opinion, as a neighbor, living 3 houses there.
Would you like to come up and,
As I said,
Okay, we have to repeat, you're gonna say your name and address, and now I'm gonna swear you in what you do now.
Catherine Perry, 607 Mercer Ave, Spring Lake Heights.
If you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in today's proceeding? Thank you.
As I said before, problem from the get-go, long before the place was even called the Porch. I was hoping to come here tonight to hear that perhaps in an ideal world, some adjacent property is going to be bought to afford a parking arena that would accommodate this new addition, because I love the way it looks. I would love to have that kind of opportunity or option for dining out right so close to my home. I think it's beautiful. I think aesthetically it would really help. However, and it's not your fault that there's been a parking problem for all these years.
Excuse me, Mrs. Karas, you just have to speak in the mic.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's okay.
I just feel that, as has been said before, if you make the place more attractive, you're going to draw more people, and we already have a terrible situation with parking. Never park in front of my house, never. I happen to have a very long driveway, so for just me, it's fine. But I have a lot of friends who are ladies who have difficulty backing out of my driveway. So they're discouraged about coming at a dinner hour because you can never park in front of my house, never. An aside might be, one thing that the town could do is to have white lines drawn so that people don't impinge on your driveway area, so that they can, sometimes I can't even get in and out of my driveway, okay? So I'm trying to think of solutions, and I don't know what they are. If you can't find adjacent property and make that a parking area, that would be wonderful. And might ease the problem for the local residents.
do you think if there was parking by permit on your block, that would be part of the solution? just, you know, like each home on the block got 2 spots, maybe in front of their house if there's enough room.
I don't know, I have to think about that, and I don't like the opportunity to talk to these very knowledgeable and well-educated and a lot younger than myself, neighbors, who are very concerned about the whole issue already, you know. So perhaps that would be, I'd like to be solution-oriented rather than just complain. I don't want to do that, or just negate the whole possibility of what these folks are trying to do, you know? If they could make adjustments by, you know, decreasing the number that they would accommodate outside, and if there were some magical answer to this parking issue, perhaps something could be done. I have to tell you that many years ago, when the restaurant first became forth, I went to the owner myself one Sunday morning. I picked up all the bottles and cans on my front lawn, and very respectfully went to the owner of the restaurant, the bar and restaurant, and I said, this is what I gather every Sunday morning. And he was very nice. He looked them all over. He said some of them aren't even beers that we sell here, so they're coming in with them. He said, we can do a better job of watching that. He offered to have his cleaning crew come down every Sunday morning and pick up all the debris on my front lawn. So I said, it's very nice of you, but you can't just come to me. You have to go to everyone on the block, and not just that block, down to the railroad station, because that's how far it extends. So they did do that for a while, and that helped a little bit, helped the neighbors to feel better, you know, the homeowners. But it was short-lived, and I guess it just goes with the territory. If you hadn't.
So is it any different now than it was when it was the porch, or is it approximately the same?
I would say it's approximately the same. You haven't been there long enough to.
I was there when the porch was there.
Were you?
I think it's increased.
You think it's
Increased.
increased?
The parking's problem has
Oh,
Not the
problem.
parking, but, you know, the beer bottles and, you know, things like that on your lawn.
That, I believe that has increased as well.
Pardon? I don't know, Mark?
That would be a council, the council would have to do that.
That'd be an ordinance.
But, yeah, just the idea of permit parking sounds good, but if you think about it, if you made people on that block get a permit and then no one else could park there, they just park a block away, and then you just move the problem to another block.
Well, they did that on Pond Road for the Old Mill Inn.
Yeah.
You know, on
The
Pond,
yeah.
it's just by permit.
But the old Mill Inn has more than 22 spaces,
Well,
And they have a valet parking.
and they have a valet park, yeah.
Kathleen Crippen, 564 Atlantic Avenue. I'd like to speak on behalf of the Environmental Commission, of which I am the chairperson.
Need to swear you in. Swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did. I have reservations on this from an environmental concern. I think it's a lovely drawing. I would wonder that, though, that if they're going to change the sign on the building, since that, I understand, is not compliant with our sign ordinance. And I think the code officer has been out there about that, and that's, we've had complaints, it's environmental pollution, basically, it's a billboard. We've also had complaints about the litter and the noise over there. Personally, the 84% lot coverage is really disturbing, albeit we heard testimony there would be some sort of stormwater management system, but there was no testimony as to what that would be. Is it dry wells, is it rain barrels, is it rain garden, what are they doing? Because as we all know, those intersections flood when you get a heavy rain. You now want to increase the impervious surface, which means the water has no place to go. So, you know, what are they going to be doing to controlling it? I didn't hear anything except, oh, we'll take care of it. I did hear a lot of, the gentleman would ask questions, and I would hear a lot of, well, I don't know, answers. And that's disturbing because just the impact of this type of expansion. And from a personal viewpoint, I live several blocks away. I've lived there my entire life, which is close to 60 years now. That whole neighborhood has just gotten worse and worse and worse over time. The cars are bigger, they take up more space, there's more of them. There's no sidewalks in this town. If you go out for a walk in the evening and you walk up 6th Avenue, chances are you get clipped by a car. And a lot of times because it's going to one of the bars and they're looking for parking and they're driving around. And I've had problems. I'm on Atlantic Avenue, I'm 4 blocks away. In the summer, we have cars all the way down 6th Avenue, down to Atlantic, and down into Black Creek Park. Now, are they coming specifically from the tap house? Can't tell unless I start following people around. But there's more and more and more cars. There's more and more and more people. There's more and more and more noise. And I think historically, Spring Lake Heights has always been opposed to outdoor dining because everything's in a residential neighborhood. Everything. And it's just the way the town was designed. You know, and it's difficult to deal with it, and I understand that people say, oh, well, you know, it's trendy and it's modern and everybody asks for this. But think about the people who live here. I used to go to the porch, and often I was the oldest person in there. I have not gone to the tap house because I'm a little afraid to go there because I'm really the oldest person who would be in there. It's a young crowd. And that's, you know, that's a great thing. You want to be a young, hip, happening place. I get it. And I never thought I'd be old enough to say these kids today. But I'm in that position now. And I don't want to see the noise. And I don't want to see the cars. And I don't want to see the litter on people's lawns and, you know, the other shenanigans that happen at 2 o'clock in the morning with people urinating on your lawn and things like that. So, please, I would really urge the board, think seriously about this and about the can of worms that you might open up by allowing this. Thank you.
I'm sure everybody can hear me because I'm very loud. I'm Sarah King, Councilwoman, Spring Lake Heights. I live at 716 Pitney Drive. I have a lot of concerns here. Also,
You swear you went.
oh, sorry,
Okay, you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you see it?
I do. This kind of opens up a whole avenue for a lot of different ordinances. All the stuff I'm listening to here tonight, which I fully intend on looking into. But some of the concerns that I have, I happen to live on the northern end of town, 5 houses away from St. Stephen's Green, which is owned by some of the same people that own the tap house. We have some of the very same problems over there. We have litter on our lawns, we have bottles in the street, we have cars parked up and down the road. It was made no parking on one side after they came in there just to accommodate the fact that you couldn't even hardly get up and down the street. Also, we have a lot of noise. There's very rarely any night of the week that you don't hear somebody screaming and hollering going up the street. Now granted, we're all living in that neighborhood and there always was a tavern there, and I, of all people, understand that. You have to keep in mind that wherever you move, you look around your surroundings and what's there is there. But I've got to tell you, when Eggeman's was there, we did not have these problems. I also happen to have been into the other establishment, the tap room. I too noticed that there is a very young clientele that goes in there. I do also know that there has been some rowdiness. I happen to be the head of public safety, which is the police department, so I do know of some things that go on. And I really think that this is a quality of life issue. And if you people grant this, what's going to happen is these particular people especially are going to, as they said here tonight, because I have it here in my notes, that they will then try to get seating at their other establishment, which they already tried to do a few years ago and was vehemently opposed. Anytime that we have anyone granted any kind of outdoor seating in this town, and I understand the parking issue, but to me, the outdoor seating is even more of a problem, because we've already had to tell other establishments, 2 of them that I know of in town, that they could not have outdoor seating because they attempted it without coming before the board. So now we're going to turn around and we're going to grant an outdoor seating situation to the tap house, and then the next thing you know, it's going to escalate, and it's going to go from one restaurant to the other, the Old Mill, the Spring Lake Manor, Jose's, any other. For all I know, the pizza parlors are going to want to do it, because I know Naples at one time wanted to do it. So that to me takes away the ambiance of this town, that what we're looking for, what we're trying to go after. It's not like we're sitting on the
If I could
ocean
just
front.
interject. This board can only consider the application that's before the board. And I understand that you
I
have
understand that, but
concerns.
the application before this board is about public outside dining.
Understood.
Right.
So, one of the things that they cannot do is take into consideration precedents. They're considering this application as.
Well, then they shouldn't consider it. Plain and simple. I just think it's wrong. Totally unequivocally wrong. And as far as the parking goes, I do want to point out something. Our DPW department is going to be in the process of marking curbs. And one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to start to mark the curbs where stop signs are and around corners. So over there in that particular area where people are complaining about the parking, they're going to be parking even in a larger extended location, because right now they can park very close to the curb because there's no yellow line. But once the DPW starts lining things and painting things, there's going to be less space, and now you're going to have them parking either farther and closer.
Objection to that. That's opinion testimony. This is not an expert witness. I object to that testimony.
Understood.
Okay. It's back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
I just came here, on road person. Say your name, John Nagel, 518 First Avenue in Avalon. I'm the owner of Spring Lake Manor and Mercer Party. So I have 2 businesses in Spring Lake Manor.
You swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
I
but
do.
the truth. Hope you got it.
Right. I just, listening to this, I've been in front of you guys before, and I know we're all smart people here, and I understand all I can add to this, and I feel your pain, all right? But the problem was there prior to it. It was always a problem. I know they have to address the parking situation. And to hear that it's a young crowd, I've seen more families go into the establishment, going there, all right? Oh, when I see you and your family, there's not a board member here who cannot raise their hand and say that they don't look for an outdoor dining establishment, especially after some of the winters we've had. Out of all liquor licenses in town, myself included, Mill, the liquor store, it's the ideal spot facing 71, if they could address the parking situations. You guys are smart people, you can put, just like you do with parking lots, you can close it at 10 o'clock, you can put no ordinance, no outside live music. You can put a lot of restrictions on it, make it fit. All I'm saying, they've done a great job, and again, I have no interest, I have really no dog in this fight, but I just think if there's a spot, let's look at 3rd Avenue and Spring Lake. There are tumbleweeds going down the street right now. There's nothing going on there after 6, 7 o'clock. And now all of a sudden Jennifer's looking to put a liquor license on 3rd Avenue. They established themselves, it's been in place before then. All they've done is make it a cleaner and better product as far as the food goes. Can't help knuckleheads at 1:30 in the morning, but maybe with the parking situation, address that, I think it would be a win-win. So all I'm saying is, we're to really, before they make their decision, make a hasty decision, maybe work out a compromise for them. Again, for this work. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else from the public that wants should we give our applicant a chance to say something in
I
response?
think, well, let's, we close the public portion. And then the applicant has the opportunity to sum up.
So I need a motion to close.
Yes,
Excuse me.
somebody make a motion.
Make a motion to close it.
I'll second. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In summation, the applicant, in this case, the Spring Lake Tap House, has made an application for an aesthetically pleasing outdoor dining area that would not increase the use of the current premises. It would advance the purposes of the municipal zoning law and would be an overall benefit to the community. Some of the questions and frankly some of the objections that we're hearing to the effect that the answer is not to make existing businesses nice or aesthetically pleasing because more people will want to come is not a reason to deny this application. In fact, it would be arbitrary and capricious to do so. The purpose of the municipal land use law is to make something aesthetically pleasing and to have the highest and best use of the property. The application as presented, and to sum it up, because I know there was a little confusion on it, but the applicant is proposing no increase in the existing number of patrons using the premises. They're simply proposing to move them outside to something that is very aesthetically pleasing, will look good from the outside of the premises. Now, again, summing up some of the testimony is people don't like there to be bars and restaurants in Spring Lake Heights. Well, God forbid that young people will go out to these establishments. It's there. That's what young people do. They go out and they're entitled to go out. It's a nice place. The testimony is it's nicer than it's ever been before. And if I could just address the testimony of the sitting councilwoman, and I know your attorney made note of it, but it's completely improper for a sitting council person to come in before this board and, in my opinion, attempt to influence or intimidate this board by stating things that the council is going to do. In this particular case, the councilwoman lives near a restaurant partially owned by one of the co-owners of the tap house, and frankly, her concern is improper. It's how it will affect her on a possible future application that has nothing whatsoever to do with this one, and it's wrong, and it shouldn't have been made. It has no relevance whatsoever on what's before this board, and I would implore this board to act solely on what's before this board. What's before this board, again, is an aesthetically pleasing outdoor seating area on an existing bar and restaurant that's been there for many years. It'll look nicer, it will give the community more options, and again, a few of the neighbors indicate, that you should focus on these neighbors, but you should also focus on the town as a whole. This bar was here before, and I would imagine that there were people complaining before because it's a vibrant shore community. People want to go to the ocean. In the summertime, people want to go out, and it's just a fact of life. This application is just going to improve that. It's going to be very nice. The applicant has indicated that the applicant is willing to work with this board to reduce the seating or the impervious coverage, to have reasonable restrictions on when it can be used, seasonal restrictions, no live entertainment outside, dining area only outside, which actually brings me to one other point I wanted to make in summation. The complaints were going toward what happens at 1:30 in the morning. The proposal before this board is to cut it off, have the last seating be at 8, and people be out of there by 9:30 and with just eating food. It doesn't go to some of the problems that the public addressed during the public portion. So based upon that, I would ask the board to seriously consider this application and the benefits of it, and to grant the application and related variances to allow the seasonal outdoor area to go forward. Thank you.
May I ask one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
In Mr. Labasco's letter, on page 4 of 4, under use variances, number 5.
It's not part of this application, so I don't.
No, but you know, I live in town, and I know when the building was first put up, the sign wasn't there, and you got your CO, and then the sign came. And that's a couple of years now, and we keep hearing about what's up with the sign. So it's in the letter that came from the borough engineer. If you could, what's the status of the borough sign permit? I mean, you have an application being filed somewhere to permit the sign, or is the sign coming down, or is the sign staying?
It's not part of this application. I could, if you wanted to reopen the testimony, I could bring the planner up to address it, but I think the answer is, the enforcement authority, which would be the zoning officer, that officer and my client would interface as to an interpretation of the ordinance, and if something needs to be done, it will be done.
I have a question for our attorney. We've heard a lot about the benefits of this application, but we're not ruling just on the benefits alone. We're ruling on the benefits would need to substantially outweigh any detriment. That's correct?
Well, the applicant is looking for
Right. Okay.
positive and negative.
So the benefits of this application is you construct a pleasing outdoor, aesthetically nice area, and that people like to eat outdoors. And you provide that to the residents of Spring Lake Heights. So that's your benefits, right? That's the only benefits that we've heard. Okay. But we've also heard several detriments. So our job then is to weigh the detriments and the benefits, and which one weighs more, we should vote in accordingly.
Well, generally, that's the premise, but I think their argument would be that's not the only benefit that was presented.
Well, what are the other benefits? I'd like to hear.
One that I recall is they're advocating that the drainage issue would be they're proposing an underground recharge system. Therefore, that is a benefit to them.
And that's to offset the 84% lot coverage, correct?
I'm not.
That's how I heard it.
I'm not advocating.
The testimony was that
but
the drainage system would be.
Logically, we all love drainage systems here, right? Don't we all love drainage systems? We all love them to death. But the way this argument is going, it's as if you can keep increasing the lot coverage as long as you put a drainage system in, eventually having 100% of everything covered with great drainage systems, but the town wouldn't look like Spring Lake Heights anymore, would it? It would be some kind of urban terrain.
But that's not what's being proposed here. What's being proposed here is an aesthetically pleasing outdoor area with a drainage system, and the expert testimony was that the drainage system would be a net benefit to what's there currently.
But you're still covering 84% of the lot.
Right, and that's with the drainage system, but it's not, to compare it to an urban area is not, to use your term, that's apples and oranges. That's not what we're proposing here. And that's just, as I argued, I want to keep, I think a lot of the pushback or negative comments from that we're hearing is that it's a very busy town. It's a summertime. The young people are going here. Denying this application isn't going to cure those problems or perceived problems for the town. What we're proposing simply is an outdoor dining area that is denying that outdoor dining area is not going to.
But you don't see that outdoor dining area as increasing these problems by attracting more people, because you said you're going to put a cap on the total number of people.
Yes.
And how would that cap be enforced? By our zoning officer? Do you think our zoning officer is going to go there at 2 o'clock in the morning and count everybody coming in and out of the place?
Well, disparaging the zoning officer is essentially the rule of law in the entire town. If, to use someone else's example, if someone just willy-nilly started doing outdoor dining without asking the zoning board for approval whatsoever, who would enforce that? It would be the zoning officer.
But
It would be the same thing.
But your compromise of taking down the total number in order to accommodate the people outside is, no one can tell if that's really going to happen, because it's unenforceable.
Well, it is enforceable by your zoning officer, and that was the expert testimony.
And, okay. You know, I 3 years ago, I would have believed you 100%, but I've been on this board for several years, and people come in here and say and make incredible promises, and then after the application is granted, those promises go out the window. And there's no way to prevent it. Once it's done, it's done. So,
But you can't prevent it by expanding your own role. Your role is to analyze this application as made.
Okay.
You can't look at it like, how is this going to be enforced? Any ordinance in the town, any land use ordinance is enforced by your zoning officer. If you feel the zoning officer is not going to enforce it, that isn't a reason to deny the application. The application needs to be decided on its merits.
I feel it's more that it's not he wouldn't enforce it, but that it's impossible for him to enforce it, that it just couldn't be done.
Well, the testimony is to the contrary, and it can be done. There was testimony to that fact.
Well, also, issues that are addressed, that if there's an approval, can be done with the conditions of approval. So the applicant has stated there'll be a limit number of patrons, and if enumerating secure approval, that would be a condition of approval.
I mean, even if you limit the number of patrons to your 199, what's stopping people from standing in line out in front of there, parking, standing in line, waiting for a table? Now, don't tell me that doesn't happen, because I wait in lines at most restaurants in the summertime when I'm here. And you'll have long lines.
But that has nothing to do with this application. That happens in every shore restaurant up and down the shore, if it's full.
But you're adding to the problem of what's going on in Spring Lake Heights. And you also, you're not adding to inside or on the patio. You still have your 199 people. But what about the other 50 that stand outside?
But they're going to be outside no matter what, under your hypothetical. Any
Well,
full
they-
restaurant would have a line. Whether there's a porch out there or not doesn't affect the number of people who want to go out to eat. I mean, any shore restaurant on a Saturday night, on a nice weather Saturday night, is most likely going to have a line. That has nothing to do with whether there's outdoor seating or not.
But you're building this to attract people to come to that outdoor seating, and then you're saying that it doesn't matter, that it's not going to affect the number of people there.
Right.
What the testimony is the outdoor seating is going to be available to people. It's not going to increase the overall occupancy.
So the people that are waiting there are going to compound the problem with the parking and the people. Even though you only have 199 people inside.
Yeah,
Then you give the other 50 people outside. And you can talk about Uber and taxis and everything else. I don't care.
But how would that be
What are you
different?
going to do with the other 25 cars that these people are complaining about on the street now? That's not your problem, I know.
Well, it's everybody's, everybody that's part of the
We live in this
community.
town. This gentleman lives up in Colburn. I mean,
This gentleman's an active taxpayer and part of this community.
So are we. And so are all the people that complain about the parking.
And so are all the customers that come to the restaurant. But here's
Not
what I
necessarily.
Well, all right.
So you can't.
The applicant gave a summation. I don't know if you're finished with the summation, but I'm not sure. I think we're revisiting things we've already talk.
I just wanted to ask clear one thing up. Earlier in the hearing, I mentioned that there was a parking problem and, in the area, and you said that hadn't been proven, that there was a parking problem. But now, we do have testimony, correct, from several people who will attest that there is a parking problem in the area. So I guess I was right. There is a parking problem, correct?
Your job is to
I mean, I just wanted, I mean, you're talking about testimony, we have testimony, well, we have testimony that there's a lot of, that there's
John,
a
if
severe
you're
parking.
throwing at it, if I may, if
Yeah.
you're throwing it, asking a question, the job of the board is to listen to the testimony presented, and you've heard testimony from the applicant, then you've also heard testimony from the public, and you're here to weigh that testimony prior to making your decision.
Is it correct for me to make a motion that we end this testimony and this back and forth bickering and get on with the vote of this?
We're getting there, we're getting there. I have a question for Mr. Carpenter, if I may.
Yes.
I would like to see some way, not necessarily on the front, but if this was to be approved, that you would be able to knock off some of the, hardscape, There's gotta be someplace, and not a parking spot, where you could get the maximum lot coverage to what it is today. That's something that I would deem to be important. And I like the idea of you like saving the, keeping the water on the property. Now, someone from the public came up and said that you really hadn't explained that enough. But I would imagine that you could discuss this with Mr. LaBosco, and you could, if this was approved, that you could reach some kind of a mutual.
Well, the intent is, we would like to, which is easiest for us to do, capture the roof runoff and the runoff from this patio and put it into an underground recharge system, which would dramatically lower the amount of runoff from this site. Obviously, I don't know what the soil conditions are. This is something Mr. LaBosco and I would have to work it out. I mean, there is ample space in that front yard to put a huge underground system if the conditions permit.
Mr. Chairman, based upon your question, with permission, Mr. Attorney, we would request perhaps if we could continue this to a new date, and we could get the information that you're requesting from our engineer.
Okay, so you want to just, hold this off and carry it over until, I don't know, next month or the month after?
How much time should you?
Well, Lou, how much time do we need to review the audit plans?
All right, I don't give much time.
I would say a month, but there might be something that comes up that we can't meet that.
Our next meeting is June 30th.
So is that what you would like to do?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So let's, we're gonna hold this over, or roll it over, whatever you want to call it, until another meeting, whether it be the next time
Well,
or,
You have to notify.
Yeah.
again.
For now, it's June 30th.
Okay, will they
Because the
need to
public-
notify?
No, this would be the notice, and it would be carried to the June 30th meeting, so anybody's
Okay.
here for this application.
All right, Janine?
So we're coming back to get June 30th to gain plans on the storm order, as well as your question about reducing the.
And the whole revised application.
Yeah, we're going to revise the application to address some of the board's concerns.
Do we have something currently for next month, Janine?
Yes.
We do?
Now, if we're having a meeting next month, if other people come and wish to speak, are they allowed to?
Absolutely.
Already closed.
No, because
It's a new meeting.
they're revising,
So it's a new
so,
plan.
yeah.
Okay. So, we need to have a motion here. All right, will somebody make a
I
motion?
make a motion that this application gets carried over to another meeting.
No.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'm gonna actually do a roll call.
Okay.
Mr. Brendel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Tangent?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss? Mr. Zelnit?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson? Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Are not permanent residents.
We have a motion to close.
Make a motion to close the meeting.
We have a second? Yes. David.
I just-